just complaining, but being specific. So instead of telling someone they never remember to respond to your text or something like that, saying, you know, you didn't respond to me this morning, and we talked about this earlier this week, and it really hurt my feelings. If you could try a little harder, I would appreciate that. That is a much gentler way of complaining and saying what you need, right?
Yes, as the Gottmans talk about, a gentle or a soft approach. Yes. And along with that, your tone, right? So be nice, and if you can't be nice, maybe wait a little bit, right? Right.
And being defensive, the antidote to that is so simple, but it's harder in practice. It's take at least a little responsibility for what you're hearing. Agree with something. What can you agree with?
Right.
So usually if someone brings up a complaint, it's legitimate, first of all. So there's something in there that you can take ownership for or agree or apologize about. So if we can kind of look past how we feel in that moment, attacked and angry, scared, and instead focus on how our partner is feeling and be concerned about that, that will just help us shift our defensive physiological response right away.
Yes, beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah. And then the third one, contempt, is a long-term plan. So this involves building a culture of appreciation, which just means you're slowly changing your mindset towards each other. And you do that by going out of your way to say thank you for little things and saying things that you appreciate about your partner. And if you want to go a little bit beyond that, you can do almost a meditation. So pick a characteristic, something that you like about them, and just think about it. Hold it in your mind like a jewel that you're sharpening. And then think about how your partner did that and how you like this about your partner. And then say something to your partner. I really like the way that you always include my sister at Thanksgiving. People tend to ignore her because she's kind of annoying. But you always ask her questions, and I think that's so great.
If you really think about it, you can of course find many things, because we all have a shadow, we all have a dark side, and we have a light side, and we want to own our dark side. And that's what you're saying. Take responsibility, acknowledge where you are off. And we're often off because, as you say, we go into fight, flight, or freeze when we feel personally denigrated or attacked, criticized, and then that counterattack, and it's World War III.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's, as you know, really hard to recover from. If we let it go and we behave our worst self into reality, then it's hard to take that back. So,
yes.
The last one, stonewalling, the antidote to that is just to calm down physiologically. So that takes on average about 20 minutes, depending on the person. And the trick is to figure out what calms you down and do it. So for some people, it could be going and watching a video of a comedian, whereas someone else might go into a bathroom and breathe deeply. Someone else might go do yoga. So the idea is to not go out the door and call your best friend and go on and on about the fight.
Yes, right.
Because then you'll get more upset and it gets bigger. And
right.
So it's take some time apart and calm down.
Yes, and how you exit for that time apart is very important.
Yes, exactly. I talk about this in my book. So you have to come up with a signal that means I need a break. It's just the break signal. The Gottmans refer to that as the break signal. So it could be as simple as holding up a hand, stop. It could be, I need a break, just saying that. And the key is, if both people, what I see, if both people understand what's happening in fights, then they understand that they must take a break.
Right. As you say, once someone gets upset or triggered, we can pretty much, as a social psychologist and therapist and speaker and retreat leader and professor and all of that, I'm always asking people, what triggers you and how do you know when you're triggered?
Yeah.
And people often look at me blankly.
Yeah.
Well, isn't it perfectly obvious? Well, let's learn the language of the body. Maybe it's not so obvious. What happens? Well, my chest constricts, my jaw tightens, my stomach clenches, I start sweating, or I stop breathing.
Yep.
Yeah. And
it is interesting if we're in tune with our body. It will tell us.
Right. Yes.
What we need to do.
Exactly. So when you know you're in fight flight, stop talking, but have a signal, have a break signal, say time out, and in that 20 minutes, if you want to make it 20 minutes or you want to make it longer, George Bach, who wrote The Intimate Enemy, had a fight fair in Love and Marriage. I've forgotten his co-author right now because I interviewed his co-author on WHPC, Just Relationships. Never fight over anything more than 48 hours old. In other words, we can take up to 2 days, but no more. And certainly within 2 days, we can find the time to be calm and to go for resolution.
That's so wise. I think there's research that shows if you don't resolve something, then over time it's in your mind, even if you're not aware you're thinking about it.
Yes.
And eventually you will come up with a label that explains that behavior. So that's where, for instance, some things have happened over a couple of years, and all of a sudden your partner tells you you're selfish. And this is out of left field for us, so we're not sure what they're talking about.
Right.
That's right. It's because they never processed the fight.
We can expect, here we are talking about the essence of just relationships, talking about relationships as such, and we can expect that there is rapport, there is rupture, always, and there must be repair. Rapport, rupture, repair. Rapport,
love that.
Rupture, repair.
Yeah.
So many people do not do the repair part, and they do the rupture part just fine, thank you. But they don't have either the skill or the will to do the repair. Repair work can be very painful because we have to look at ourselves and take responsibility and say, yes, you hurt me when you did this and that. And by the way, I recognize that I hurt you when I did this or that. So, and people, you have something in your book where you talk about hoping it will go away. Yes, if I ignore this, it'll go away. All right, and that's...
But not really.
But not really. But not really.
What I think is interesting about repairs is obviously they're critical to happen, but at least in the Gottmans, what their research shows is that it's not the person that makes the repair that it's dependent on. It's the person that's willing to receive it or not. So, just imagine saying I'm sorry for something and not being forgiven. Right?
I agree. I think there is so much to receiving an apology and receiving a gift, and there's a lot to initiating. But I think there is equally as much importance in receiving.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can you receive the gift your partner just gave you by saying, I'm thinking about a couple I had in therapy a few weeks ago. Just, I didn't wake you because I didn't want to wake you up, so I went and ran this errand myself. And meanwhile, the other person is still on, but I wanted to do that, and not hearing that their partner did not want to wake them.
Right.
And
there's consideration there.
Exactly. And so can you hear that this was a gift that your partner was giving you? Finally, after asking 3 or 4 times, the person said, yes, I hear that it was a gift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They received it.
Right. Because
Finally.
they received it. They received it. Yes.
It's tough. It's not like along the way we really learn these skills unless you're someone like you or me, who have taken a serious interest
Yes.
and studied and, all of that. So,
right. And I think even if we have the open heart and the disposition, a lot of marital therapists stop there. But we need to have the last phase, which is the skill building phase.
Yes.
And many people don't recognize that. So it's not just skills. We have to have the will and we have to have the skill, both.
Yeah, I actually do teach Gottman workshops. I don't advertise it excessively because it's not really, it's something that I do a little bit of at this point, but that's what that's completely focused on. And they offer them all around the country as well.
Right.
But it is such a good investment if you want to stay married, right, or stay together.
Do you want to let people know how they can attend?
Sure, yeah. If I do that one-on-one, so the best thing to do if someone's interested in that is to email me, and my email address is Sarah with an H at optimizingrelationships.com.
Sarah at optimizingrelationships.com. That's Sarah with an H at optimizingrelationships.com. That's beautiful. That's a lovely, succinct way of putting it. So
thank you.
We had just a minute or two. What do you mean when you say put a reality check on conflict?
Are you referring? Which part of the book are you referring to?
Let me see. This.
I think I know. I think some people think that conflict.
Yeah.
Yes. Conflict isn't. It needs to be solved, and it's uncomfortable, and stay away from it. But the fact is that it's always going to be present, and it can be a really healthy, good thing as long as there's skills around it.
Right.
So there's just a lot to understand about what to do and what not to do in times of conflict. And the best thing to do really is to learn about it and then talk about it outside of a conflict. Right. So you can come up with a break signal, and you can understand how a defensive person is feeling and what they're believing and how they're reacting and what they can do instead.
And I think most people would not believe what you're saying. I know it to be true. They assume conflict is automatically bad. Yes. But if you can learn from it and grow from it, you can even be better on the other side.
Yeah. I've noticed something. I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. It seems like if we don't learn a lesson or learn a skill or something like that that's interpersonal or relationship-oriented, then we get presented with a situation in our lives repeatedly until we get it.
Yes, repetition compulsion, Freud called it. So, you got it. So, Sarah,
thank you.
You're welcome. Sarah Brabbs, author of So People Say You're an Ass, a book for you, people who love you, and people who work with you. Sarah with an H at optimizingrelationships.com. This is Dr. Duffy Spencer. Thank you so much, Sarah. Saying goodbye for now and wishing you great relationships.